Good morning, children. Let us start a new chapter, namely atoms and molecules. While you are studying chemistry, in your life, the terms atoms and molecule is very important. We have a clear idea about what is an atom, what is a molecule, and the difference between atoms and molecules. Please look at what I am going to do. It's a piece of paper. I am cutting this paper into smaller and smaller. This we can again cut. It become smaller and smaller in size. Please look at what was happening. We can again cut. We can again cut. And at the last, we can reach a point. This piece cannot be again divided further by our hand and scissors. Others on dividing on the paper again and again, at the last we reach a spot of paper which cannot be further. This spot, this tiny particle of paper cannot be divided by scissors or in your hands. Instead of paper, if we take an iron piece or a copper piece or a carbon piece, we can also cut it or divide it further and at the last what we get? A tiny particle of copper or a tiny particle of iron or a tiny particle of carbon. That particle cannot be divided by the scissors in our normal life. This instead in the scientific way or using electron microscope, this particle can be again divided and further divided, and at the last there is a minute tiny particle which cannot be divided further, or at the last they reach a point or they get a particle that is indivisible, cannot be divided. That tiny particles are known as atoms. For every substance, you see what I am doing. Now I am cutting a piece, dividing a piece of paper into cut it into smaller and smaller, and at last we reach a point that small particle can be seen by your naked eye. But in scientists, in their experimental lab, what they do? They again divided this tiny particle by using electron microscope and with the high power. And at the last moment, at the last point, there is a tiny particle of that substance or that matter that cannot be divided further. They named it atom. The small indivisible particle of a substance. The small tiny indivisible particle that cannot be further divided. That is known as atoms. Are you understand what is it? What do you mean by atom? The term atom. Atom means the smallest particle, the smallest tiny particle of any substance that cannot be further divided. That smallest particle is known as atoms. These atoms combine together to form molecules. Atoms combine together to form molecules. That is the difference between atoms and molecules. What do you mean by atoms? The smallest indivisible. Divisible means can be divided further. Indivisible means cannot be divided further. The atoms cannot be divided further. That small substance is tiny, is known as tiny particle. The smallest tiny indivisible particle. You especially note on the word indivisible. Atoms cannot be divided. That tiny particle cannot be divided. That means indivisible means cannot be divided. That particle is known as atoms. Atoms combine together to form molecules. Atoms combine together to form molecules. Now we can go on. This invention of atoms, or how the scientific world reaches the term atoms. In the 17th and 18th century, a number of scientists spent their life for the unseen and the wonderful nature of these tiny particles. In the ancient India, the scientists named Maharshi Kanada, Pakkuda, Katyayama spent their life for revealing the secrets of these tiny particles. They are known as, on dividing the particle, dividing a substance, it can be divided further and further, and at the last there is a particle, that indivisible particle. In this indivisible particle, the wonderful and the unseen and the unknown secrets of the nature lies. The first scientist, named Maharshi Kanada, gave this tiny particle as Paramanu. Maharshi Kanada that means Kanada Maharshi gave Paramanu, give the name Paramanu to this tiny particle. At that period, the term atom, the word atom does not come to the world of science. So, at first, instead of the word atom, Maharshi Kanada founded that every substance, every matter is made of this kind of small tiny particles, and he called them, Kanada Maharshi called the tiny particles as Paramanu. Then came another Indian philosopher named Pakkuda Katyayama. Pakkuda Katyayama also put forward his principle to be a support to the Kanada Maharshi's ideas. He also stated that these tiny particles exist in the combined form, like elements combined to form modes. These tiny particles he called padartha. Instead of matter, instead of all kinds of matter or substance, Pakkuda Katyayama, the philosopher, the Indian philosopher Pakkuda Katyayama used the word padartha. He says that all padartha, all substance exists in the form of combined state. Combined state. Later comes two Greek philosophers named Democritus and Leucippus. Democritus and Leucippus. They also commented this statement. Democritus and Leucippus states that these small indivisible particles of substance are called Democritus and Leucippus first used the term atoms. He called the small tiny indivisible particle of substance as atoms instead of Paramanu. Kanada Mahashini called the tiny particles as Paramanu. Later, after years, the Greek philosopher stated that these tiny particles are like atoms. Small indivisible particles are called atoms. But there were no experimental background for their observations. Like Kanada Mahashini, Pakvada Katyayama, Democritus, Leucippus, their statements have no experimental background, no experimental basis. These were only philosophical considerations. They used the word Paramanu or Padartha or the term atoms, and they were the combined form, not as a single state. The statements were no experimental proof, no experimental basis. They put forward these statements on the basis of their philosophical considerations. On the basis of philosophical considerations, they stated these statements. Later, the scientist named Anthony L. Lavoisier, and Joseph L. Proust. They provide an experimental basis to the statements put forward by the Kanada Mahashini and Democritus. Anthony L. Lavoisier, or in short, the scientist Lavoisier, and Joseph L. Proust they provide an experimental explanations of their statements. They put forward two theories. They were known as law of conservation of mass and law of chemical combinations. These two laws were very important in our classes. What were the two laws? Law of conservation of masses. Law of conservation of mass and the law of chemical combination. Law of conservation of mass and law of chemical combination, or it is also law of definite proportions. The experimental proofs were started from the age of named the scientist Lavoisier and scientist Joseph L. Proust. They put forward two theories. That theory is known as law of conservation of mass and law of chemical combination. Let us see what does this law states. These laws must be proved by a simple experiment. Please look at here. This is a conical flask. In the conical flask, copper sulfate is taken. Copper sulfate is taken. Inside the flask, in an ignition tube, sodium carbonate is taken the ignition tube. Inside the ignition tube, there is sodium carbonate. It is tied to a string and this is tightly closed with a cork. What are the things we taste? What are the, this is a conical flask. Inside the conical flask, which substance is taken? Copper sulfate. Copper sulfate. Then what is the next chemical? Sodium carbonate. Sodium carbonate is taken in an ignition tube, in a small test tube, and it is inserted inside the conical flask. Then the hole is tightly covered with a cork. It is closed with a cork, tightly closed with a cork. Then its weight is taken. The weight of total this means the weight of cork, conical flask, copper sulfate, sodium carbonate, ignition tube, including the string. The weight is, total weight is taken. Then what is next thing to do? It is shaken well. On shaking the well, the whole system holding on the top, it is shaken. What happened? The sodium carbonate is mixed with this. Then what is reaction takes place? Copper sulfate reacts with sodium carbonate to form copper carbonate and sodium sulfate. This the reaction takes place. After the reaction, you take the weight again. Then you can find out whether there is any change before the reaction, change in weight before the reaction and after the reaction. Let us know once more. Let us note what are the changes occur here. What are the changes occur? What are the chemicals taken? Copper sulfate plus sodium carbonate. Copper sulfate plus sodium carbonate react together. What does product here gives? Copper sulfate, copper carbonate and sodium sulfate are formed. What are the reactants here? Reactants means those substances which are taking part in a chemical reaction. Which are the substances taking part in the chemical reaction? In this reaction, the substance taking part in the reactions that is known as reactants. The reactants are what are reactants? Copper sulfate and sodium carbonate. Copper sulfate and sodium carbonate react together. What are the products formed? Copper carbonate and sodium sulfate are formed. Before shaking the conical flask, they are reactants, and we will take the weight of the reactants. Now, after taking the weight of reactants, we will shake well. Then on shaking, what happens? They are mixed together and products are formed. After the reaction, we again repeat take the weight. Then what is our conclusion? Whether there is any difference in the weight before the reaction and after the reaction. There is no change in the reaction. That means before the reaction, the weight of copper sulfate and sodium carbonate is equal to 20 gram plus 6 gram. That is equal to 26 gram. The weight of the total reactants is weight of the reactants is equal to 20 gram plus 6 gram is 26 gram. Weight of the reactants before the reaction. That means before we shaking the conical glass. 20 gram copper sulfate and 6 gram sodium carbonate. After the reaction, what has formed? Copper carbonate and sodium sulfate. Copper carbonate then after the reaction, we again take the weight. It is equal to again 26 gram. 26 gram. What does this prove? What does this explain prove? The weight of the reactants before the reaction and the weight of the products after the reaction must be the same. The scientists repeat the experiment with many more substances and more reactions. In our test also more substances were given, for example. In all these experiments, they came to a conclusion that in a reaction, there is no change in the weight of the reactions must be always equal to the weight of the products. That means what does it mean? In a reaction, what happened? Yes, this substance can be, or matter can be, or mass can be changed from one form to another form. Copper sulfate is converted to copper carbonate. Sodium carbonate is converted to sodium sulfate. There is conversion, there is a change take place. But at least one particle cannot be destroyed. It cannot be destroyed or it cannot be produced. It cannot change from one form to the other. That means law of conservation of mass can be stated as follows, that mass can be neither created nor destroyed. State the law of conservation of mass. What's the answer? Mass can be, or matter can be, neither created nor destroyed. For every substance, our experiment is for proving this. Before the reaction, there are the total mass is equal to 26 gram. After the reaction, the total mass is equal to 26 gram. Even though the substance changed from one form to the other, there is nothing new substance produced, nothing new substance created. They changed from one form to another. Or there is nothing new atoms or new produced there. That means matter can be. Again, please listen. Matter can be, or mass can be, neither created nor destroyed. It always remains the same. But what can we do? It can be changed from one form to other form. Not only in the chemical state, in physical state also. In physical state, if we take 50 gram of water and change it to ice, there is no change in the mass. Even though if it is in a careful experiment, if it is in the vapor form, the mass cannot be changed. In chemical nature also, the matter can be, mass can be neither created nor destroyed. You must learn this law in your life. You can apply this law in several times in several subjects. This is law of conservation of mass. This is put forward by the scientists, namely Anthony Lavoisier and Joseph Proust. Again, let's come on to the next law. What is the next law? Law of chemical combination. What is law? Let us see the weight of a substance, for example, water. What is the molecular formula of water? Molecular formula of water is H2O. Molecular formula of water is H2O. What is the mass of hydrogen atom? Mass of hydrogen atom is 1. Here there are 2 hydrogen atoms. 2 hydrogen atoms, there is total mass is equal to 2. Similarly, there is 1 oxygen atom. The atomic mass of oxygen atom is 16. In a water molecule, there are, in single water, there are 2, for example, 2 gram of hydrogen and 16 gram of oxygen. Therefore, the molecular mass of water is 2 plus 16 is equal to 18. 2 grams of hydrogen combines 16 grams of water to form 18 grams of oxygen. That's a common factor. We can divide it by 2. Then it is 1:8. The scientists found that in water, hydrogen and oxygen are always in the ratio 1:8. Do you know how it is come? The mass of hydrogen is 1. If there are 2 hydrogen atoms, there is the mass of 1 hydrogen atom is 1, therefore the mass of 2 hydrogen atom is 2. Similarly, the mass of oxygen atom is 60. Therefore, total mass equal to 1. It can be divided by a common factor 2, then 1:8. The scientists found that the water molecule, in a water molecule, hydrogen and oxygen are combined always in a definite proportion. Hydrogen and water, hydrogen and oxygen is equal to 1:8. If we electrolyze 9 gram of water, but do you know what is electrolysis? The electrolysis means a substance can be divided by constant elements by passing electricity through it. If we electrolyze 9 gram of water, we get 1 gram hydrogen and 8 gram oxygen. We can, let us see another example. The case of ammonia. What is the molecular formula of ammonia? The molecular formula of ammonia is NH3. Molecular formula of ammonia is NH3. Atomic mass of nitrogen is 14 and atomic mass of hydrogen is 1. Here 14 is 2, 3. There is no common factor, so we can't do it. In ammonia, nitrogen and hydrogen are always found in a ratio of 14:3. We have found that the hydrogen, the water molecule, hydrogen and it shows it always 1:8. That means in rainwater, hydrogen is shows it 1:8. The water from the pond, the ratio is always 1:8. The rainwater, the pond water, or the sea water, or the water from a near well, in every water molecules, whether it is how it is formed or where it is prepared by laboratory, or where we get from either naturally, there is no difference In every water molecules, irrespective of their formulation or preparation, or it is always the ratio 1:8. Similarly, 1:8. Similarly, in the case of ammonia, it is 14:3. Therefore, they came to a conclusion. What is the conclusion? In a chemical substance, the elements are always found in a definite proportion. In a chemical substance, the constituent elements are always found in a definite proportions. Whether this is state law of definite proportion or law of chemical combination. But how we can state it? Law of chemical combination can be stated as follows. In every chemical substance means either it is water, or it is carbon dioxide, or it is sodium chloride, or it is vinegar, or it is zinc sulfate. In every substance, the constituent elements are always found in a definite proportion. Like water, it is hydrogen is to 1:8. In ammonia, 14:3. Like carbon dioxide, can you find out carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide, carbon, atomic mass 12, oxygen 16. Here 12:32. There is 2 oxygen atoms. We can further divide by 3:8. In carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen are always, here we take an example in the chemical substance, carbon dioxide. Constant elements, carbon and oxygen. In chemical substance, carbon dioxide, the constant elements, carbon and oxygen are always found in the ratio 3:8. That means 12:32. Atomic mass of carbon is 12. Atomic mass of oxygen is 6. There are 2 oxygen atoms. The mass of 2 oxygen is 32. 12:32. We can divide by the 1 factor 4 when it is 3:8. That means the carbon dioxide, whether it is formed in Kerala, or the carbon dioxide formed in London, or the carbon dioxide formed in America, whether irrespective of its source, or irrespective of how it is prepared, even it is carbon dioxide, the constituent elements, carbon and oxygen are always found in the definite proportions. Then there came these theories, these laws, 2 laws, the law of conservation of mass and law of chemical combination, get an experimental support after the theory put forward by the scientist named John Dalton. Then we came to the name of another scientist, John Dalton. John Dalton is scientist who put forward the atom theory to the scientific world. John Dalton is the first scientist who scientifically gave a clear definition. He also picked the term atom for the indivisibility of the atoms, and he gave an experimental explanation. John Dalton is a scientist, he gave an experimental explanation to the atom theory. John Dalton is a scientist who put forward his theory is known as the atom theory. We can let us see what are the important points to be of John Dalton's atom theory. There are 6 statements. There are 5 statements related to the John Dalton's atom theory. The first point he pointed out is that all substances are made up of small indivisible particles named atoms. John Dalton's atom theory states that all substances are made up of small, tiny, indivisible, I repeat again, indivisible means that cannot be divided by the small particles named atoms. This is the first postulate of John Dalton's atomic theory. Then he stated again that in a substance, all the substances are identical in nature. That means in carbon atom or the iron, all the atoms are identical in their properties, in their chemical nature. Then the third postulate was the atoms of different substances are different. The atoms of different substances are different. What do you mean by this? All the atoms in the carbon is identical. All the atoms in hydrogen is identical. Then where lies the difference? The atoms of the carbon and the hydrogen are not same. In a particular substance, the atoms are same. That is entirely different from the other substance. Do you know what is meant? That I say, the atoms of hydrogen are identical in every qualities. The atoms of oxygen are identical as oxygen atoms. Then what I say? The oxygen atoms are entirely different from hydrogen atoms. What do you mean by? What is the first postulate? All these substances are made up of small, tiny particles called atoms. Second is, the atoms are indivisible. The atoms of a substance are indivisible, that cannot be divided. Third is, the atoms of the same element or the same substance are identical. For the atoms of different substances are different in their qualities. Next, they combined in the ratio of small whole numbers. In a substance, the atoms are combined in the ratio of small whole numbers. For example, we have seen that in the water, hydrogen and oxygen are combined in the ratio of 1:8. In carbon dioxide, it is 3:4. Similarly, they are small whole numbers. Thus, this next statement is, they combine in a definite proportions. Definite proportions. Do you know what I say? In a substance, the constituent elements, the component elements they combined in a definite proportion. The ratio of small whole numbers, and they combined in a definite proportion. These are two statements. Now let us see again what are the main postulates of John Dalton's atom theory. On hearing the name John Dalton, you will always remember that the atom theory was put forward by John Dalton. It was a main step to the scientific world. John Dalton's atom theory. The main postulates are, all the substances are made up of small, tiny particles called atoms. Second postulate is, these atoms are indivisible, that cannot be divided. Third postulate was, in a particular substance, all the atoms are same, identical in a particular substance. In a different substance, the atoms are, in their chemical properties of the atoms are different. That the atoms of one particular substance is entirely different from the other substance. The other statement is, in a substance, the constant elements combine in the ratio of small whole numbers. That means in water, hydrogen and oxygen always combine in the ratio of 2:1. In ammonia, nitrogen and hydrogen always combine in the ratio of 1:3. In carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen are always combined in the ratio of 1:2. This is the fifth statement. What is most statement says? In a particular substance, the constant elements are always combined in the ratio of small whole numbers. Whole numbers means WHOL, small whole numbers. Like 2:1, 1:3, 1:2, like whole numbers. What is the last postulate? They combined in a definite proportions. That means in water it is combined to the ratio of 1:8. In nitrogen it is combined to the ratio of, like mass, 14:3. It is here also, we have seen that 3:4. So this is the 3:8. This is the main basis or the starting of our definition, our chapter, atoms and molecules. So you have to, what are the main points you have to remember is, what are the main points? The names of the earlier scientists who they have made a contribution for the term atom. The first contribution made by the scientist who? Maharshi Kanada. Hippocrates says he called these individual particles as Paramanu. Kanada Maharshi called the small indivisible particles as Paramanu. Later came the next scientist, Pakhuda Kathyama. What does he say? He says these particles exist in the combined state. These particles are formed in the combined state also. Then came the next scientist, the Greek philosopher Democritus. What does he say? Democritus and Leucippus said that they are these individual particles. They use the term atoms. Yet the contributions of these scientists, these philosophers, have no experimental basis. The contributions of these scientists have no experimental basis. They have only their philosophical considerations. Later came our scientists named Lavoisier and Joseph Proust. What are their contribution? Lavoisier and Joseph Proust put forward two great laws. What are these laws? The law of chemical combination and the law of definite proportion. And last week, who put forward the atom theory? John Dalton put forward the atom theory. So you read the passage and note down the names of the scientists and their major contribution. We can continue the next session, the next episode. Okay, thank you all.